He moved through the country like a ghost, leaving a trail of pain and unanswered questions. Israel Keyes, a name synonymous with calculated evil, terrorized America with his methodical and brutal crimes. From the frozen landscapes of Alaska to the quiet suburbs of Vermont, Keyes preyed on innocent lives, often strangers, leaving law enforcement baffled and communities shattered. This is the story of a man who meticulously planned his attacks, a serial killer who reveled in the darkness he created, a man whose true victim count may never be known, leaving a chilling legacy that continues to haunt us today. Keyes' crimes were not those of passion or impulse. They were cold, calculated acts of depravity. He meticulously planned each attack, often traveling thousands of miles to find his victims. He buried murder kits across the country, caches of weapons and tools hidden in remote locations, ready for his next horrific act. His motive? It seemed to be the sheer thrill of the kill, the power he held over life and death. The full extent of Keyes' crimes may never be known. He confessed to several murders, but hinted at many more, his words a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks in the shadows. Join us as we delve into the twisted mind of Israel Keyes, exploring his life, his crimes, and the devastating impact he had on his victims and their families. Born in Utah in 1978, Israel Keyes' early life offered glimpses into the darkness that would consume him. Raised in a strict and isolated environment, Keyes grew up with little social interaction, often left to his own devices. His family moved frequently, further isolating him from any semblance of normalcy, making it difficult for him to form lasting friendships. There were signs, whispers of disturbing behavior that hinted at the monster he would become, but they were often dismissed or ignored. Even as a child, Keyes displayed a chilling fascination with death and violence, often seeking out dead animals to examine. He tortured and killed animals, his cruelty escalating with each passing year, a clear indication of his growing malevolence. His parents, seemingly oblivious or perhaps in denial, ignored the warning signs, attributing his behavior to youthful indiscretions or mere mischief. But these were not the actions of a normal child. They were the building blocks of a predator in the making, a harbinger of the darkness to come. As Keyes entered his teenage years, his dark fantasies intensified, becoming more vivid and consuming. He began to fantasize about kidnapping, torturing, and killing people, his mind a twisted labyrinth of violent thoughts. He would spend hours meticulously planning his attacks, drawing maps and diagrams, his mind consumed by thoughts of violence and control. It was during this time that Keyes committed his first known crime, a foreshadowing of the horrors to come, a prelude to his future atrocities. He broke into a neighbor's home, stealing a handgun and other valuables, feeling a rush of adrenaline and power. The thrill of the act, the feeling of power it gave him, only fueled his dark desires, pushing him further down a path of no return. Keyes had tasted transgression and found it intoxicating, a dangerous addiction that would only grow stronger. His path was set, and the world would soon learn the true depths of his depravity, a journey into the heart of darkness that would leave a trail of devastation. In 1998, seeking structure and perhaps an outlet for his twisted urges, Israel Keyes enlisted in the United States Army. This decision marked the beginning of a double life that would allow him to mask his sinister intentions behind a veneer of discipline and duty. He excelled in his training, proving to be a disciplined and capable soldier. His performance was exemplary, earning him the respect and admiration of his peers and superiors alike. His superiors saw him as a model recruit, unaware of the darkness that lay beneath the surface. They praised his dedication and commitment, never suspecting the malevolent thoughts that occupied his mind. But Keyes was a master of deception, carefully constructing a facade of normalcy. He knew how to blend in, how to appear just like everyone else, all while hiding his true intentions. He served at Fort Lewis in Washington, blending in seamlessly with his fellow soldiers. His ability to maintain this facade was a testament to his cunning and his ability to manipulate those around him. He was deployed to Egypt and later to Fort Hood in Texas, carrying out his duties with efficiency. Each deployment provided him with new opportunities to refine his skills and further his dark ambitions. Yet beneath the surface of the disciplined soldier lurked a predator biding his time. His military training only served to enhance his ability to plan and execute his heinous acts. Keyes used his time in the army to hone his skills, becoming proficient in weapons handling and survival techniques. These skills would later prove invaluable in his criminal endeavors. He saw his training not as a service to his country, but as an opportunity to perfect his craft as a killer. Every lesson learned, every skill acquired was another tool in his deadly arsenal. While stationed at Fort Lewis, Keyes began to act on his dark fantasies. The isolation of the base provided the perfect cover for his nocturnal activities. He ventured out from the base, targeting strangers in secluded areas. These excursions were meticulously planned, each step calculated to avoid detection. He would stalk his victims, carefully observing their routines, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. His patience and attention to detail made him a formidable predator. His crimes were brutal and seemingly random, leaving investigators baffled and communities terrorized. The sheer savagery of his acts sent shockwaves through the areas he targeted. Keyes took perverse pleasure in his double life. The thrill of the hunt, the satisfaction of outsmarting those around him, fueled his dark desires. He reveled in the fear he instilled, the knowledge that he could operate undetected right under the noses of those who believed they knew him. His ability to blend in was his greatest weapon. His time in the army had transformed him from a troubled youth into a cold and calculating predator, a ghost in the night who could move unseen and strike without warning. The military had unwittingly provided him with the perfect training ground for his monstrous ambitions. Section 4. Methodical Madness, the Murder Kits and a Killer's Blueprint. Israel Keyes was a meticulous planner, his crimes marked by a chilling level of organization and forethought. He was not just a criminal, he was a methodical predator who left nothing to chance. He saw murder as an art form, and he approached each kill with the precision of a craftsman. Every detail was considered, every action premeditated, making his crimes both horrifying and fascinating in their execution. Central to his modus operandi were his murder kits, caches of weapons, tools and supplies hidden in remote locations across the country. These kits were strategically placed, ensuring he was always prepared, no matter where he decided to strike. These kits were Keyes' signature, a testament to his twisted genius. They were a chilling reminder of his ability to plan and execute his crimes with a level of detail that was both terrifying and impressive. He buried them in advance of his travels, carefully selecting locations that were isolated and unlikely to be discovered. This foresight allowed him to move with confidence, knowing he had the tools he needed waiting for him. Each kit contained everything Keyes needed to carry out his crimes: guns, ammunition, knives, rope, shovels, plastic bags, and even Drano for dissolving bodies. The variety and specificity of the items showed his readiness for any situation. He would often rent cars and travel thousands of miles to commit his murders, using the kits to avoid detection and leave no trace of his presence. His ability to blend in and move unnoticed made him a ghostly figure, always one step ahead. The discovery of these kits sent chills down the spines of investigators. They were a stark reminder of the calculated nature of his crimes and the lengths he went to in order to remain undetected. They represented a level of premeditation rarely seen in criminal history. Each kit was a piece of a larger puzzle, a blueprint of his deadly intentions. Keyes wasn't just a killer, he was a collector of souls, a hunter who stalked his prey across state lines, always one step ahead of the law. His ability to evade capture was a testament to his cunning and meticulous planning. His meticulous planning and attention to detail made him a nightmare for law enforcement, a phantom who seemed to vanish into thin air after each horrific act. The frustration and fear he instilled in those pursuing him were palpable. Keyes documented his crimes in detail, keeping meticulous journals filled with chilling accounts of his murders, his thoughts, and his twisted fantasies. These writings were a window into his dark mind, revealing the depth of his depravity. These journals, later recovered by investigators, provided a disturbing glimpse into the mind of a monster, revealing the depths of his depravity and the meticulous planning that went into each of his horrific acts. They were a roadmap to his madness, each entry more chilling than the last. Section 5, Terror in Alaska, the case of Samantha Koenig. In 2012, Israel Keyes' reign of terror struck the heart of Anchorage, Alaska. Samantha Koenig, an 18-year-old barista, was abducted from her workplace, a coffee stand, on a cold February night. Her disappearance sparked a massive search effort, but days turned into weeks and hope began to dwindle. Keyes had chosen his victim carefully, a young woman who lived alone and whose routine he had meticulously studied. After kidnapping Koenig, Keyes held her captive in a shed on his property. He subjected her to unimaginable horrors, torturing her for days before finally ending her life. He then dismembered her body and disposed of her remains in Matanuska Lake, a glacial lake north of Anchorage. Keyes' cruelty knew no bounds, his actions a testament to the darkness that consumed him. Koenig's disappearance sent shockwaves through the Anchorage community. Fear gripped the city as parents kept their children close and residents looked over their shoulders. Keyes, meanwhile, had already fled the state, leaving behind a trail of heartbreak and despair. He had become a phantom, drifting from town to town, leaving a trail of devastation in his wake. Section 6, A Trail of Blood and Silence, The Courier's Fate. While Samantha Koenig's abduction gripped the nation, Keyes had already claimed other victims, their stories tragically intertwined with his cross-country killing spree. In 2011, Bill and Lorraine Currier, a couple from Essex, Vermont, vanished from their home, leaving behind no signs of a struggle or forced entry. Their disappearance baffled investigators, who initially suspected a domestic dispute gone wrong. However, the truth was far more sinister. Keyes had targeted the Curriers at random, breaking into their home while they slept. He subdued the couple, bound and gagged them, and then drove them to an abandoned farmhouse he had scoped out earlier. There, in the cold darkness, Keyes ended their lives, shooting Bill and strangling Lorraine, their bodies left to decompose in the dilapidated structure. Keyes later confessed to killing the Curriers, his chilling account revealing his cold-heartedness and complete lack of remorse. He described the murders in detail, recalling how he had meticulously cleaned the crime scene, removing any trace of his presence. He then fled Vermont, leaving behind a community in mourning and a mystery that would haunt investigators